if I need support in making that happen. I'm going to present a mode. If somebody could just confirm whether you can see my slides. Can you see my slides?
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Thank you. Apologies again for the slight confusion, but actually, I think my slides follow very nicely from the first couple of presentations. In that, I would like to tell you a little bit about how in the UK we are approaching the organisation of cardio-rheumatology education at a national level, which is quite consistent with what was proposed in the first presentation about how theoretically one might go about this. My name is Plein. I'm a cardiologist. I work at the University of Leeds, where I work very closely with rheumatology colleagues. My expertise is in cardiac MRI in particular, so I don't treat patients with cardiology or rheumatology conditions anymore. I'm also predominantly an academic, so undertake particularly research studies in cardio-rheumatology now. But I've been part of the setup of a national infrastructure for cardio-rheumatology in the UK over the past few years, particularly in collaboration with my good colleague Maya Booch. So if we go to the status quo of cardio-rheumatology in the UK before 2022, it does not exist as a subspecialty. It doesn't exist as a subspecialty in cardiology, and it doesn't exist as a subspecialty in rheumatology. It also forms no part of either the cardiology or rheumatology curricula whatsoever. The cardiology curricula just refer to cardiomyopathy, dilated cardiomyopathies, but make no specific reference to chronic inflammatory conditions as one of the causes of such cardiac or cardiovascular involvement. I would say that the majority of patients with immune-mediated inflammatory disease are, of course, treated by rheumatologists in a lot of centres across the UK in the NHS. There are a few tertiary referral centres, but a lot of patients are treated in district general hospitals or smaller hospitals. Those with suspected cardiac involvement, and there is no guidance on when cardiac involvement should be suspected, may be referred to a cardiologist, but often this is to a heart failure specialist or a general cardiologist, because not many centres have or have had specific cardio-rheumatology clinics. This is beginning to change, and some centres have set up joint clinics or MDTs where cardio-rheumatology patients are discussed. And often rheumatologists, particularly in those specializing in conditions that are commonly involved with cardiac involvement, such as lupus, vasculitis, or systemic sclerosis, have their favorite cardiologist on speed dial. So if they encounter a patient with cardiology problems or suspected cardiology problems, they give them a ring or send them a referral, and then the patient will then be seen by that particular cardiologist. Because this is a cardiac MR meeting, I was also just briefly going to mention that in the UK, access to cardiac MRI is ubiquitous. It's available in every tertiary centre and most of the larger district general hospitals. There are around 100 centres that offer cardiac MRI, so that many patients with suspected myocardial involvement from immune-mediated conditions can have access to cardiac MRI. Not always to the same standard and quality, perhaps, but this is one of the things that we're addressing, as you will see in the next few slides. This I already mentioned, and I think I can skip over the slide. It's also worth mentioning that in the UK, we have already proposed management pathways for patients with some of the immune-mediated inflammatory diseases in a collaboration between rheumatologists and cardiologists. Although the initiative for this usually comes from rheumatologists, on this particular paper, there were several cardiologists involved in proposing the management of suspected primary heart involvement in systemic sclerosis. Let's now talk about the changing landscape of cardio-rheumatology in the UK. And this has its basis in this partnership between the National Institute for Health Research, which is the UK's government-funded clinical research funder. This is a very powerful and very, very well-funded research funder, and it went into partnership with the British Heart Foundation to address several priority areas of cardiovascular care, including, among many others, cardiovascular disease and immune-mediated inflammatory diseases, the so-called CARDIO-RHEUMATOLOGY theme. This theme was founded about 5 or 6 years ago as one of the first themes within this partnership platform. And although there was no direct funding through this partnership, it is just a partnership, it doesn't have money. It brought some people, in particular cardiologists and rheumatologists, together in one room. And about 5 or 4 years ago, we discussed that we need to write a specific grant application to get some money to set up a cardio-rheumatology network in the UK. This was then done in the form of an Medical Research Council network grant that Maya Booch led on together with myself, some other cardiologists and rheumatologists, to form the so-called UK CARDIO-RHEUMATOLOGY Partnership, which has now been in existence for over a year and a half. You can find us under cardio-rheumatogy.org on the internet, and you can see what we're up to on that website. Basically, this is a partnership of initially it's 29, now it's a bit more, centers in the UK that have both cardiology and rheumatology services. It's funded by a £1.3 million award by the MRC specifically to set up this kind of network. The funding is not for particular research, it is specifically to set up a network of sites. The steering group consists of both rheumatologists and cardiologists, and the aims are to establish a national platform that advances clinical and experimental medicine research in patients with cardiovascular involvement in IMIDs. Specific other aims are to standardize imaging protocols, and I've written CMR here, that's also true for other imaging modalities, in particular PET, to develop diagnostic criteria for cardiovascular disease in patients with IMIDs, or SARDs, as they're referred to in other publications, systemic autoimmune rheumatological conditions or diseases, to specifically inform future UK guidelines and future UK curricula. So we are in contact with the British Cardiovascular Society and the British Rheumatology Society. They're aware of us, and when the curricula are rewritten, we very much hope that we have a seat at the table and will be able to at least include some cardiorheumatology in future rheumatology and cardiology guidelines. We are collaborating with those two societies, but also internationally with rheumatology, cardiology, and imaging societies. And an additional aim of our network is to educate patients and physicians of the cardiovascular effects of systemic autoimmune rheumatological diseases. Now to what it is we're actually doing. So we're organizing educational conferences. We've had some of those before. The next one is actually on Friday, where we have an in-person and hybrid meeting in London, which is sold out. So all the in-person places were taken within a few days, where we are presenting cases from a rheumatology angle with cardiologists and rheumatologists on the discussion panel. We have some educational presentations from experts both from the US and from the UK. And we're very much looking forward to this educational event happening the end of this week. Quite importantly also, we're very keen to help those who want to get started in cardiorheumatology, because ultimately these things are always driven by passionate young physicians who want to develop themselves and want to develop a particular area of their interest. So we have a travel fellowship scheme to which early career researchers or clinicians can apply for a placement in one of the partnership centers. We pay some of their travel and accommodation costs for up to 3 months. And we hope that this will spearhead the growing of a new generation of experts who are interested in this particular subtopic. We are currently recording a series of webinars, and you can see here the different modules that we're trying to cover. As you can see, it goes all the way from basic concepts to imaging to management, and with specific content for non-cardiologists to talk about cardiology concepts, and non-rheumatologists to particularly inform them of rheumatology concepts. So these webinars are now being recorded. They will be available through our website and through MedShare, I think is what we decided in the end. So anybody can join through MedShare, become a member, and will be able to benefit from this webinar series. Other activities in the UK, we are working with the BSCMR, the British Society for Cardiac Magnetic Resonance. We've held a joint seminar with them last year. We presented at the British Society of Rheumatology conference last year on cardio-rheumatology as one of the emerging subspecialties of interest. And we are publishing as much as we can, review articles in rheumatology journals and cardiology journals and imaging journals, just to spread the word about this subspecialty and its importance and relevance to get everybody interested. So a couple of those recent review papers. So just to summarize from a UK perspective, education in cardio-rheumatology is challenging because we're starting from a very low level. It's certainly a long game. I think it involves growing a cadre of young, enthusiastic physicians who can take this field forward. And it needs leadership from both senior experienced people, but also from this second generation. It does require collaboration and, in many terms, friendships between cardiologists and rheumatologists to succeed. Having some funding, as we have in the UK, definitely helps because we have a couple of managers who are essential in keeping us all on track. They remind us of meetings, they hold meetings, they organize the conferences, etc., which are funded through that MRC grant. I think without that support from administrative staff, I don't think we would be where we are now. I think it's really important to be present at specialty societies and conferences to make our voices heard and to continue to be active in the cardiology and rheumatology journals with position papers. And the last thought is that cardio-oncology is a subspecialty in the cardiology field that I think has taken a similar journey maybe 10 years earlier than us. And there are lots of lessons to be learned from how they went about establishing cardio-rheumatology as a subspecialty, which is now in many curricula around the world, with a society and with a lot of impact on the care of patients with those conditions that I think would also go a long way in helping the patients with cardiovascular manifestation of rheumatologic conditions. And with that, thank you very much, and apologies again for the slight confusion at the beginning.
Thank you very much.